not need to be college degree educated to do anything you want, at least not now, because there's tons of technology and resources, and it's just an old stigma that, like older generations expect people to go to college to do things to keep society moving, but you can keep society moving any way you really want.
Like, for me, it was just like a push for my parents. They wanted me to do that, and honestly, I had nothing really else to do, so I was like, I'll just start in a degree.
It was kind of just something that, like, my parents and I decided that, like, would be best for me, and one, I wanted the college experience, and it really, to get a decent job in this world, like, definitely need a bachelor's degree, I think, and so I think that was really what I wanted to do, and especially what I wanted to do in the future. You definitely need like a bachelor's degree of some sort, and yeah, so that's kind of why I wanted.
Unless you're going into something technical like an accounting major, it's a scam.
I decided to go to college for accounting because in high school I took a couple of accounting classes and I just really liked it, so just went with it. I don't really think it's as important as it was before.
Okay.
Because now there's just a lot more opportunities, a lot of entry-level jobs that have higher pays, I guess.
I think you can do anything that you want if you put your mind to it. A lot of people in my degree don't need college. You can go straight into the academy and become a police officer, or like start in an office and work up. Although I think that getting a degree is important to get a higher level of like money or education. It isn't really necessary for like a job.
You get no actual experience in college. You just pay to be taught stuff that you could YouTube, or you could get paid to do by just working at an actual job. Yeah.
Welcome to episode 1, The Making of an American Investor, with me, Primo Fuego Galicia, and Grant. I want to take this opportunity to welcome you as you get to see something that's unique that we're going to offer here as we go through the story of how Grant becomes an American investor and his first steps on the first day. Today's the first day. Thanks for being here, Grant.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
All right, so one of the things I think is important is that what we get to start off is base everything on facts. You have to understand that the market itself has many different ebbs and flows. But more importantly, it wants to make you emotional, which means void of facts. So when you think about the market, let's go into some basic things. Your income that you're going to be using as far as when we talk about non-discretionary spending, we can't even look at that. So when we look at a total outline here, we know that $852 that come from non-discretionary spending, you can't deploy. Those are based on obligations. And we always know that debt has priority over equity stakes. So we got to look at non-discretionary. We got to look at discretionary versus the non-discretionary spending. So on your discretionary spending side, you have about $1,766 available for you to actually deploy to change that factor. What do I mean? What is programmed right now is about $852 of monthly obligations. Those obligations are locked into your mind. Yep. Okay. Now, here's the thing. You have $1,776 about that you can use. So here it is. Today's inflationary rates, for every dollar you have the buying power of 70 cents per dollar. Okay, so you have to take in consideration that going forward, I have, for every dollar that I hold, and based on, you have about $1,766, that is, each one is worth 70 cents. So we could take 70 cents times $1,766, and you can see if you deploy it outside of equity, you're going to lose money.
Yep.
Because it's going to eat away right at your buying power. Your buying power gets decreased before you get a chance to even deploy any resources, because right now it's 30 cents what it is in today's market as far as the inflationary is pulling at your cash. So let's talk about what we can do, and let's look at when we take this entire income, we say to ourselves, well, that puts us around between about $2,700 a month total income, with $1,766 about being able to use to strengthen that. So let's go over a couple things. And I think this is important because what happens a lot of times is people think of investing opposite of what it really is. So let's take it from this standpoint. Okay, do you want to pay taxes in 2022, 2023 or 2024 on anything or any decision you make today in the market?
No.
Okay. So what I mean, let me give you a little bit more clarity, okay? Because my question wasn't clear. You have a choice that if you make a decision today, you may not be obligated to pay any taxes on that into 2023. Okay?
Yeah.
If you make a decision today, you may not have to pay any taxes on that to 2024. So a 2022 decision, tax implications in 2024, you will not have to pay any taxes really into the year of 2025 once 2024 is over. So here we are in 2022, and you're pushing taxes off, which is deferring any type of tax bracket that you would be hit on into the tax year 2025.
Perfect.
Okay. So when we talk about that, then we say, okay, if I'm going into the market, the average person doesn't look at it this way. I'm looking at investing, but I'm also disconnected from investing because I'm looking at how much money can I make right now. Well, let's just look at this. Let's assume that you make $40,000 a year. Okay. At $40,000 a year, you're at a 12% tax bracket. If you make a lot of money this year, I'm going to move you up. The problem that you're going to run into is this. As long as you have money coming in that is taxed differently than your W-2 income, it gets pooled together as one. So you may, even though the taxes for what you may do in actively moving money and making deals is less than your W-2 income, it's going to be combined into two and make it all ordinary income. So this is a strategy. How come it's a strategy? Because if you're working a job and you're making around $40,000, you have to ask yourself, is my goal to increase my tax bracket? Or is my goal to increase my income but reduce my tax bracket?
Increase my income and reduce my tax bracket.
Okay, that's a strategy. That's not what the average person is thinking about when they go to trading. I just want to make as much money as I can. Well, we got to look at some factors here because we do have a chart that tells us what the income brackets are. So one factor is the way the taxes work is this. Anything that you make with less than 12 months, you tax higher. It's going to be higher on the capital gains. However, anything over 12 months, so you can strategically make a decision today on a deal, not be subject to taxes to 2025, and you get your 1099-R. So here's another thing we have to take into consideration. When you get it from your job, factor is you get a W-2. This is the first time you're introducing a 1099-R. A 1099-R is what you do when you are doing any form of retail trading that you'll get from whatever trading platform you have selected to trade on. So at the end of the year, you'll get a 1099-R, which is subject to different taxes than a W-2. The highest tax bracket of capital gains, short term is 15%. Well, short term is 20%. Long term is 15 to 5. So automatically, if your taxes on 40 right now is around 12% underneath the tax code, you'll be 3% more if you did capital gains.
Gotcha.
The question is, when do you want that 15%? Because you can now adjust. You can now work around your income. See, right now you got 40,000, and I always tell people this: when you think about just what you're about to accomplish, it's multiple layers. So let's start off with the first layer. The first layer is I get to dictate how I'm going to pay my taxes. That's a 1099-R. That's what every retail investor gets annually for any deal that they actually made income or lost income in a 12-month basis. Now, rule number one is we don't lose money. So we say that our goal is not to have any losses. And the only reason that you don't have any losses is because it's the same way. Remember, we started off right now with, we talked about your discretionary spending, right? So if you have $1 in your hand and we know that as soon as you deploy that dollar, it only has the buying power of 70. So that meant that decision made you lose money. As soon as you deploy it, if you buy Coca-Cola, if you buy a Snickers bar, you go buy deodorant. The buying power is 70 cents. It's going to cost you more to buy that deodorant. Every prices went up in this economy and this inflation that we're in, right? So you automatically know that I have an issue. I need to turn all my dollars back into being worth a dollar. You got a 30-cent pull down. So first thing you're trying to do when you think about being an investor is I have to solve already the problem of my buying power, because $1,000 has the buying power of $700. See what I'm getting at?
Yeah, I gotta get that 700 back to the original
Correct.
1,000.
So the first thing that we're saying is this: there's $300 gap. How much would it cost me from my discretionary spending, which is $1,766, to increase my buying power at least to break even? And that's the one thing most people are not thinking about. What they're thinking about is I want to make as much money. But what are the facts of making money? What are you trying to get back, and what are you trying to make above? Because the starting point first should be like, I have a $300 gap for every $1,000 I deploy. Okay, so we address that. We're gonna address that. We know that if we take it, and let's just take a simple. You got your calculator on you. Let's run $1,766. $1,766.
1,766.
Yep, times 30 cents.
Times
We're gonna run this two ways because I want you to see both ways, okay? But I want
$529.80.
$529.80.
Yep.
Okay, that's what you. So here's the thing: if you spent this entire month, if you took from if you make about 26 or 2,700, you spend about the whole 1,766 cents. You lost. So whatever you bought, it cost you $529.80 more. Let's look at what you actually have the buying power. We're gonna take $1,066, so $1,766 times 7.70. It's gonna tell you what you're actually using.
$1,236.20.
$1,236.20.
Yes, sir.
So this is where you're starting off. So the buying power of $1,766 it only buys you $1,236.20. We got to fix that. So that's our starting point. We know that if you deploy for every $1, you lose 30 cents. You only got 70 cents of buying power. When we take the whole $1,766, you say, man, I only got the buying power of $1,200. And if you actually go deploy that, you'll see that. You'll be like, man, you lost $529. And so people say, well, you are now the CEO of your own finances, and you have a choice. Are you going to allocate your funds for 70 cents per share? Just because this is discretionary, which means it's not an obligation from a previous commitment. Okay, it's not an obligation. Non-discretionary is I got previous agreements where it's costing me more to pay this debt. Because just if we took in now, to kind of give you an example, if we take in and just absorb that for a second, this is what we realize. Before I even deploy my money, if I don't look at my equity increase in my cash, I have to increase my cash, my buying power, because I'm down. And we're doing an inflationary time where everything costs more. And it's going to eat it up at 30 cents every dollar that I have. So as an investor, the reason that most people should be going into investment is because that one, they want to increase their buying power, losing less money. And two, they want to look at how those taxes are going to be. It should not be a surprise like, oh man, I got to pay this in taxes. Well, we entered knowing that. We started off saying, what is our tax bracket, first of all? Mm-hmm. So now we have a measurement. We know that we have $1,236.20 that we have to turn back into $1,766.70. Will it take $300 to make $500? Will it take $400 to make $500? Will it take $600 to make $500? If that's what it would take, then that's what you need to take from your $1,766.20 every month just to get back the $529 that you lost. See that?
Yeah.
But if you spend it, you lose it. If you allocate it to equity, now here's the position. Everybody, including yourself and myself, were all born with the realization of this. Go out and finance. You got to get a car, you got to get an apartment. So all of these things are necessary. You can never pay for a phone. You can pay the phone, but not the service. That's an infinity sign there. So you're in a situation where debt is always the priority over equity. We're now about to change that. And how do we change it? Because we want to look at what your buying power is and says, okay, I need to start chipping away where equity takes priority over debt. If not, every dollar is worth 70 cents to you today. And that is your motive. That's your motive. You're going to operate as, I have this money, I'm going to go get McDonald's. If you notice, everything is getting smaller and it's costing you more. That is what your buying power is being, that's how that $529 is being taken away. Where you used to go to the dollar store and you say, well, what's my buying power in the dollar store? Just in the dollar store, you say, well, it's no longer $1, it's $1.25 plus tax. See that?
Yeah.
So you know that $1 it has 75 cents. Where's that other 5 cents? Look at the tax on that. If you buy food, you're going to be taxed, okay? So by the time you're all said and done, you're down to 30 cents. So you can see it just by going in the dollar store because you're hit on 75 cents. Because $1 used to buy $1 worth of goods, now only you buy 75 cents. How we know? Because it takes $1.25. See that?
Yep.
You're down to 75. Now that we have that understanding, we look at the tax year and says, okay, I want to make income. And when you're looking at it from a standpoint, you look at this as a business now. When we think about, if you have about 40,000 that you make a year, I want to incorporate another thing so you can actually see this, to push you to focus on equities over debt being the priorities, equity being the priorities. If you make about 40,000 a year, and at the end of the year you have $5,000, that's what you have left from your 40,000. So that meant that from the discretionary spending that you have $1,766 over 12 months, you save $5. If I was to just buy your position in life and say, hey, I'll pay you $500, you keep, $5,000, you keep doing the job that you do every year, but since you only saved $5,000, I'm gonna buy your position. Would you be able to take the $5,000 and still meet your obligations if I bought your position in life and all I paid you was $5,000? Think about this now. I'm gonna pay you $5,000. That's all you saved. So it takes $40,000 in order for you to save $5,000. That means the position in your life. See, everything else is the cost of your lifestyle. Your lifestyle, I have to make $40,000 so I can just save $5,000, okay? If somebody paid $5,000 for your position and they say, here's $5,000, but go to work the next year and I'm not paying you nothing else, could you meet your obligations?
Yeah, no.
No, you know the reason is?
Yeah.
Because I want you to just remember that. And I want you to think about what I'm going to say next. The reason you can't, because even you will agree, your obligations and your ability just to save $5,000 means that your position in life is cheap. Because if they just pay $5,000, you still can't survive. So you didn't retain enough money and increase your equity. See that?
Yeah.
And most people, what they're doing is this. They make about $40,000. At the end of the year, they have around 2 to 3. Then they go on vacation. They start off with 0. It's easy to buy their position in life. We're not buying them. We're buying their position. And you want to play a game is I'm going to save money to increase an equity stake, to increase my buying power and buy people's position in life. Your friends won't be able to travel to go to places you go because they will never have enough if you take this. And this is the reason why I say it's the making of an American investor, because you're looking at every day that when you have your, what we call discretionary spending, you're saying that I need to make sure that I'm, first of all, increasing my buying power and then buying people's position. If your friends can go where you go, you didn't save enough money to buy more equities. Your goal for the rest of your life is to be able to retain your money that you make from a living, increase your equity stake, and make your equity stake priority over debt obligations.
Makes sense.
See what I'm getting at?
Yeah.
Because once you program yourself to that, and let's say if the inflationary period came down and $1 was $1, but you turned every $1 you had into 3. See what I'm getting at?
Yeah.
So let's take this number here and let's do $1,766 times 3. And what do we get now in buying power?
I would now have $5,298.
500.
5,000.
5,000.
298.
298. Okay. Year 1. Okay. We're gonna take again the 17. That's all we did we took 1 month's income and decided that we're gonna go after increasing our equity over. We're gonna make our equity position priority over our debt position. See, because quite naturally you're programmed to be like, I gotta pay these debts. Now I need to increase my equity stake and buying power. Different philosophy. See that?
Yeah.
So every month you want to say, I'm increasing my equity stake and buying power. I'm only deploying my funds, my discretionary spend, to increase my equity stake, which means I'm going to own something. And it's going to generate more buying power for me than the current buying power of my dollar. So I'm turning $1 into 3s versus $1 into 70 cents.
It's a changing of the mindset.
Correct. A strong mind cannot be crippled, but a weak mind can, because a weak mind is not disciplined. And it's the discipline which we're talking about. People are looking at wealthy people and their biggest issue is, oh, they think they're rich. No, they are disciplined. Debt is not doesn't have priority stakes over their allocation of funds. Equity has priority stake over the allocation of funds. So if we take this, so this is the first year. We got 5,298. Let's take the second year. So we're going to add an additional $1,766.
To the 5,298.
Not yet.
Oh, okay.
Because let's make this 5,298 tax year be 2023, which means you will not get your 1099-R into 2024 to file for 2023. So you're not going to be looking at receiving this money until the end of 2023. Now you may say, how come I did that? The goal is to move from this March all the way to next March. How come? To reduce any type of capital gain. See the strategy?
Yep.
And I tell people, they say, well, no, I can make as much money. Okay, I can make the same amount of money you made in one trade, and it took you a whole year to make it. And you spent 4 to 5 hours in between your time at work emotional.
Emotional damage,
right? Where you sat there and you trying to trade on what some people will call scalping, some people call swing trading. You're doing all of this, but are you functioning the way that you do your taxes now? So remember, you work all year to accumulate about $40,000, and then the following year in 2023, you get your W-2. That's your natural path. So you're going to go against your complete natural path. If you go against your natural path, the IRS, I'm going to penalize you for it. See how that works? Mm-hmm. So there's some factors that we're going to say. So do I really want to make short-term money, or do I want to increase my buying power and reduce the tax burden?
Reduce the tax burden.
Right. That means we were looking at all of our transactions that you're looking at doing is being carried over 12 months. Yeah. Because immediately I reduced the tax burden and I moved from 20 to 15. See that? Mm-hmm. You hold it more than 40 years, you're looking at a 5%. That's it on capital gains on 1099-R income. So the deals we're making are anywhere between 13 months to 36 months. That's the idea you have to say to yourself. Now, I want to see that if you start to look at this and we take this number here and we take again another $3, that's going to give us another $5,298, right?
Yep.
Now, this transaction hypothetically is going to close in the same year, 13 months from now, and you got 2023. So now you're looking at, we can now take $1,766, right? Times 2 equals what?
$3,532.
So $3,532 comes out that it has the buying power of 5,298 times 2. So do that times 2. $5,298 times 2.
$10,596.
So let me ask you a question. We now know that $3,532, just twice out of a 12-month period, gives you the buying power of 10,000. Do you understand when I say this, that the average American goes out and they get that, they have that discretionary spending, and out of all they got to do is 2 months, and they got 10,000 of buying power using 3,500, but they won't do it. They actually take every dollar they have and turn it into 1,236 or nothing. They just don't do anything. And the idea of the word safe, let me tell you what the word safe means. Safety is using facts to make informed decisions for the outcome that's agreed upon. So somebody say, well, my job is safe. No, it's not safe. How come? Because you didn't make the deal. What do you mean I didn't make the deal? Because all in the state of Nebraska, jobs are what? It's called, so when a person works in Nebraska, this is a state that is at will. You know, you don't have to. I mean, they can just say, well, we're going to just eliminate that. So you have to say that safety is not in my job. Safety is in me making a deal in spite of if my job keeps me, great. But if not, so we know that, again, notice this, $10,000 comes from 3,532. So if you did this 4 times, you have the buying power. If we base this at the end of 2023 of what your entire income was, so we can now know that how much does it make to make your income, your income. Well, let's run the numbers on it. So we now know that if we take $1,766 times 4 gives us what?
$7,064.
$7,064.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Now we want to take this number, 5,298. What is this based on? A $3 increase in your buying power. Because this is telling you now, notice what I'm doing. I'm programming your mind to look at a transaction that doesn't pay you less than what?
Less than $3
Right.
per dollar I put in.
That's very important because it means your real buying power is 270.
I see that.
See that?
Yeah.
So we now know this. If we take this times the number of 4, what does that give us?
$21,192.
$21,192. Okay. We're getting close. Okay. So this tells me that if you're going to put a plan together to be able to make what you make on your job, that is, and we say we do that 4. If we take a total number of 8 months, watch how this happens. We take 8 months, and you would say, well, I don't have 8 months. So here's the cool thing about it. Let's take 8 first and see if that gives us a number. So we're going to take 8 times 1,766. So we need to know how much money we need to put aside to get the outcome we want. So 14,128. Okay, 14,128. For those who's using their calculators that's following along as they're watching the show today, which is fine because remember, the part of this is us always making sure we're using facts to make our decisions. If not, then we actually will lose money, at least a little bit. So now we have if we take that number there, that's 14. Now we take the 5,298 times 8. What does that give us the buying power of?
$42,384.
So 42,300.
Yep, and 84.
$84. Okay, now check this out. You will say, well, that's 8 months of my pay. Okay, and mentally today, I cannot make that determination, right? That I can take 8 months. I can probably do 4. You got to commit to something, right?
Yeah.
If we commit to 4, you'll have 21,000, only using $10,000. Okay, keep that in mind. So, I mean, when we talk about this, if we use 2, we know we make 10,000. If we use 4, what we need to figure out is how much money you got to use for the 4. Now let's take 1,766 times 4. And we're doing this in real time, guys, to let you know. And this is because we're working all of this math out before we even hit the market. How come? Because now you have in your mind, if I can't make $3, I don't take the trade. See how that works?
Yeah.
You're not walking and saying, maybe I can make 3. No, I have to make 3 in the entry. If I can't make a $3 spread in the entry, none of this math is real. It was an assumption that wasn't based on facts. And the fact is, 1, I'm bringing my tax bracket down immediately a year from now. So I'm not trying to have my trade close, or at least me closing the trade to after 12 months. So on the 13th month, anything after the 12th month and the 8th day, I can close the trade. I'm only going to be subject to 15% taxes. See how that works?
Yeah.
If I hold this for 3 years, I'm going to be subject to 5% taxes. See that?
Yeah.
So you now have a position saying, okay, it may make me more money in the long run by me doing that. It may make me less. But the goal is, in 1 year, you mathematically figured out what you have to sacrifice or at least set aside to make your entire income. And this is what most people don't do. And it's because they're not looking at trading as a business. Remember that a business runs its operation and files taxes annually. As an employee, you operate for a whole year, then you get paid. All investments, cars are based on an annual percentage rate. Notice these terms annual. How come that the business market does it on an annual basis? Because they're actually doing it. Some companies make a deal for 2 years, reduce the taxes into that second year. These are all business transactions. You're going into saying, I want to take a stake in the business, but I want to not function like a business. There's a consequence. Sincerely, there's a consequence, and that consequence is you're going to pay more taxes than they will ever pay because they're functioning based on the IRS code, and you're functioning on the emotion that does not have factors that's based on discipline. For individual, now, don't get me wrong. When a company's tax bracket is 35%, it's different than an individual's, though, okay? But now, the companies have 21. So no matter how much money they make, the highest tax bracket they're running to is 21. I don't know of any corporation paying 21% because the nominal rate is really between 5 to 7. But most of them, the highest, if you're going out here just making a lot of money, max you're going to pay is 21. That is not for the individual who has a W-2. the more you make, the higher that rate goes. There's no blocking cap.
Yeah.
Right? You can't hit a ceiling and say, that's it. So we need to make sure that when we go into this, we are mathematically doing it. So here's what I have to ask you today, okay? This is my question. Based on these numbers here that we're looking at, what are you willing to commit to as far as resources to start your $3 moves? And now again, it's $3. And the reason I did 3 because it's very, very, very easy for you to think about the 3. It's a number that is not 5, not 2. It's not 1. It's right in the middle. So we just picked a middle number. We arbitrarily picked that number. So let's look at it. In your account, around about how much do you have?
In my investing account,
Right.
Right now I have $2,500.
Okay, you have $2,500. Now let's take the scenario that we discussed. Now we're going to take real numbers. We base this off of the 1,766, but in this particular case, you have a little bit more to start, right? Mm-hmm. So we need to take 25 times the $3, and now we have a measurement that comes out to be what?
$7,500.
Okay. So you're saying that this 2,500, based on using the same 3, no different than using the 1,766, I'm not making any. There's no move I'm going to make to co-own a company or position in the market unless I can make 7,500 or 2,500. When I'm talking to different people and I say, what is your number that you're trying to make on the money you have? You know what they always tell me? I'm just waiting for momentum. Wait a minute, you waiting for what? I'm momentum trading. I'm swing trading. Again, notice what I said. If you're deploying this 2,500 and you can't make $3, okay? Let's go back to this. If you deploy it now and you deploy $1, you get access to how much money buying power?
70 cents.
Okay. So if you're going to make a decision, we already know that you can have the buying power of 70 cents if you go and do consumer spending. But you said I'm talking about going in and I'm making priority equity over debt positions. And my expectation is I'm going to deploy my resources in a way that for every $1 is $3 to me. And I'm going to give up my current consumption where I can go turn $1 into 70 cents, and I'm going to turn $1 into $3. See that?
Yeah.
Okay. So we now have a measurement. Nothing less at the entry of a trade of 7,500. So this is rule number 1 underneath your philosophy is this. I have $2,500. I am only going to deploy that resource. I'm going to give up my current consumption because my goal in 2022 is to make sure that I can enter and gain $7,500 so $2,500 have the buying power of $7,500. So I'm increasing my buying power of $7,500, and I do not want to deal with taxes until after 12 months, okay? So this is a 12-month trade, and we're not looking at dealing with any taxes. So one, we reduce a couple of things. One, my capital gains is automatically going to be 15%, rule number 1. So let's look at this. We now know that $7,500 times 15%, 0.15, what is your obligation for taxes?
$1,125.
$1,125. So we know that we owe the IRS $1,125. That's taxes. We knew that going into it. Mm-hmm. Okay. So as we begin to scale this back, that's taxes. The next thing we want to look at, we know the state taxes are, because we just talked about federal, the state taxes are 0.29%, so 0.29. So we need to take 7,500 times 0.029 because we dealt with our federal taxes.
So that's $217.50.
$217.50. And that's because of this is the state taxes. So we now want to add up, or we now want to take it from this. We want to take 7,500 minus 1,125 and then minus $217.50. And what is your actual gain on that trade a year from now?
So the actual gain would be $6,157.50.
Okay. And that's important to know. We now have complete measurements. The reason why measurements are important is because we cannot manage what we can't measure. So if you fail to deploy your resources to make $3, you now say, okay, I failed because, and you can look at the measurement. You can say, this only made me 2. It's better than 70 cents though, but you can say, that wasn't my goal. So we've set out a parameter here. If you beat the 75, you did better at allocating funds. In America, adults are horrible because their positions are cheap to buy. We talked about that earlier. We now understand the power of $2,500. It's not what you thought it was it?
No.
Okay. So when I hear people tell me that they put $10,000 on a house, down on a house, okay, and I say, okay, what is the buying power of that if it was in Grant's hand? Let's take $10,000 and you're going to see 10,000 times 3 is 30,000. They say, well, yeah, boy, I did a deal where I made, and I'm going to show you what they did. They put $10,000 down, okay, which has the buying power, if you were handling that money, 30,000. They put $10,000 down to get $1,500 of positive cash flow a month. They lost $15,000, and they said they're excited. It would take them 3 years at 15 just to break even, and you made it in the first year. 1 year, you made 30,000. Do you see the difference of having a strong mind and being aware of the numbers?
Based off the facts, not the emotions.
Correct. Because they want, if you want to, and now you got to keep in mind, remember what we did. This is the interesting thing. Real estate, as a person with a social security number and you put the mortgage in your name, okay, it's called ordinary income. Well, we know that that's taxed at 10%. They only make $4,500 each year. See that? Mm-hmm. So it's going to take longer than 3 years for them to break even, because every year, that's federally they would owe, if that's the only income they have, based on from $0 to $10,000, you're going to pay 10%. That's $5,000. There's $5,000. We don't have to guess. That's federal. Now they got to do their state. 5,000 times 0.029. By the time they're done, did they really make 5,000 in positive cash? No. What if they had to fix anything during the course of that year?
Lost even more.
Lost any more. See? And I sometimes people don't understand that business happens before the product happens. Real estate is a product. Make sure you do business first. Because if you don't do business first, the product ain't worth it. Because you can wait 1 year, you can take your same scenario, and you can actually increase your equity stake, then do the real estate secondary. See that?
Yeah.
You can do it. So the goal now is to say this. Your goal for yourself is a mathematical game called this. What is your goal for the year to add to savings for equity, not debt? Because remember, right now, we're switching the mindset from, you put $2,500. It's March. Let's go to the end of the year. So are you going to contribute any more money to your position for equity?
Yes.
Okay. Have you made a commitment to what it is?
No.
Okay, let's make a commitment, because you can't manage did you do it or not if we don't make a commitment to it. So give me a number. We know you got 25, that gives you 7,500. So what would you commit to, knowing that you have discretionary spending of 1,766 by the end of the year? Because what we're putting in is discipline.
So if I put in $1,000 each month towards building the assets,
that gives you an extra 8,000. So let's run the numbers, because if it's 8 months left in a year.
well, 8,000, and I'm gonna make $3 off of every dollar I put in, so that'd be $24,000.
So 24. But let's take the whole thing. Let's take the 25
Okay.
plus the 8,000. That's gonna give you 10,500. And I believe we did that on the front. We go back, we look at the front. Oh no, almost close to it. So we need to, it'll be a little bit less. Let's take 10,005, okay, times $3.
$31,500.
This is your goal by the end of the year. This is your measurement. So, and here's the thing. You now know, okay, and I want you to understand that right now, this is, somebody would say, oh, well, he's just using hypothetical. Okay, this is called an assumption.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is called an assumption. We have stated an assumption, and we now want to see, do you have the ability to make it facts? Because we took facts to come up with this assumption. We know what our tax burden would be. So let's work out, and so we can already know what our tax burden would be. Not this year, at the end of 2023, right?
Question.
So, yes.
Why do I have to take this money out? Why can't I keep reinvesting it?
Oh, you can.
Okay.
What I mean by that is the deal is done, though. What I
Yeah.
mean is you made 31. Now you can take the 31, do it times 3. Now you're talking about becoming an American investor. Now.
Yes.
Okay. So when I say the deal is done, I don't mean remove it from your account. Thank you for the correction. What I'm saying is that what you have done is that you're back loading your equity position to supersede your job.
Yes, I see that.
See, it takes less than 7 years to never ever work on a job where you're waiting to get paid. It takes less than 7 years. There's a couple other things in allocation and then being more responsible that make you walk off your job in 2. That you'll never ever work. And then you immediately bring down your tax bracket. Because the tax brackets that you make underneath your 1099-R is cheaper than you do underneath W-2. W-2 is the highest tax bracket. The second tax bracket is 1099 with no letter behind it, which is you a subcontractor. You tax higher, like 48%, period. And then if you're not taxed 48%, they make sure you spend the money in the open economy so you don't have it. Any signs of that money existing doesn't exist in your hands, okay? But remember, we're now talking about the difference of this because this should be taught at home, but the reason it's not taught at home is because parents make debt priority over equity. Every time people say, well, I got bills to pay, right? They're telling you my debt is more important to me than my equity. Well, what does equity mean to me? What does it mean to you? In our conversation, it means $3. That means $2,500 is $7,500. What I gotta wait? How long do I have to wait? 12 months. Okay, which is normal, right? Because you gotta wait every year to get your taxes back. Yeah. Right? And then we take it the second year.
Question for you.
Sure.
What if I fail to accumulate and put that $8,000 into my account?
Okay, let's look at what the consequence is that we know you would do. Because the question is, I think the question is great, but it's also minus something, the consequence. What is the consequence? So let's say you only put $4,000 by the end of the year in your account that goes on top of the $2,500. So you have $6,500. $6,500 times $3 equals what?
$19,500.
Now we want to minus that $19,500 from the $31,500 you previously said that you was going to commit to yourself.
$12,000.
Are you happy that $12,000 you decided to blow up?
No.
That's the consequence.
Yeah.
You see where I'm coming from?
Yeah.
Because and at the end, that's the consequence is I knew I had the ability to make $31,500, but I made a decision to turn $1 into 70 cents. Wait 1 year, take the difference of bumping it back up, and then you can say, okay, what did I give up? Whatever that item is, I assure you, in the economy that we were, it's on discount now.
Yeah. And I could have bought it 3 times with the $1.
Yes. You could have bought, 3 other items. But let's look at this. So this year one, the anticipating of year one is $31,500. Mm-hmm. So we got a measurement. So by the end of 2023, I have an expectation of $31,500 with only using 10. The deal closes. Your $31,500 is freed up. We're going to do this times 3. We already know we still got $31,500 that's new this year that we made a deal for. And so we have one tax year, and this tax year is not going to be the 2025 because we pushed everything in 22 to the end of 23. 23 we paid in 24. We're now making deals in 2023. At the end of the year of 2024, we file those taxes. See the difference?
Yep.
So we're already ahead. Times 3, what do you now have? When you take the $31,500 times $3, using your same number.
31,500 times 3 is $94,500.
Okay. So we now know that the $31,000 has the buying power and cash value of $94,000. Keep this in mind. You already got $31,000, so let's look at the real value here. Your real value is take $94,500 plus $31,500. And that's what you have in 2 years. The question is, do you have the discipline to follow your own allocation schedule? Because this is your allocation schedule now. Okay, and what does that come out to be?
$126,000.
Even. So let me ask you a question. What you going to work for after the second year? Because you know you can take 40 out and let the rest go and it keeps going and you'll be fine.
I could keep it all in there.
But my question is, do you have to go sit somewhere to make $40,000 a year the third year?
No.
Welcome to become an American investor. This is your path. Somebody say, well, what do you mean? This is a pathway. Could you make this pathway shorter? Yes. You see where I'm coming from?
Yeah.
Yes, this can be shortened. But this is a schedule only using the facts of saying this is what I'm willing to do today. What happens normally for most people who come through us at CFS is that they say, okay, what could I do? And then they see what they're capable of. Most people now don't see this. See, I don't see savings as $2,500. I see savings as what? $7,500. I don't see $10,500. I see
$31,500.
you need to understand that. When somebody say, I just spent 10 grand, you should say, ay.
Spent 30 grand.
You just spent 30,000, my friend. They're gonna be like, what? You spent 30,000. Did you? What was that 10,000 for, man? I put that down on the car. Ay. You could have paid cash for it a year from now. How much was the car? 30. It takes 10,000 to buy a $30,000 car. Do you see it now? That's all it takes to own one. It's 10,000, and people rather pay 84 months for a $30,000 car instead of 10 grand. Wait a year. Put 10. If you got 10,000 to put down, you got 1 year to wait. You can buy the car. I can't because my older car. I get it. Sometimes the older car breaks down to the point where it's total. There's nothing you can do. In those type of situations, buy a get by. You understand? People say, I'm not buying a get by. You want to buy a good buy, or do you want to make debt priority over equity the next 7 years, the next 5 years, the next 48 months? You got to remember that there is a program in place to switch who gets what wealth. The wealthy has the wealth because they're not structured for impulsive spending. People say it can't be that simple. I say, well, that's how I make over millions of dollars a year. It is this simple. And the reason it's this simple because what am I doing? I'm providing, one, a healthy mindset according to the rules. See, there's some rules, and no employer pays you quarterly your salary. They're not giving you, well, you got 40,000, I'm giving you 10,000, then I'm gonna give you 10,000. Or they don't give you, here's 40, I see you the next 12 months coming to work, because most people are not gonna show up. So what do? They only pay you when you show up. How do you get the 7,500? You got to show up with the 25. See, we now know the consequence. When you look at your dollar, you say 75 cents or $3 for the rest of your life. As you get proficient, you're gonna be like, I'm done with 3. I'm now gonna laser my focus to look at a different dollar amount. I want this plan to go faster than a $3 move for every $1. Not faster as far as blow taxes up, because the idea here is this. We now have a structuralized plan. We know that the $2,500 really has a value of $7,500. How do we know it has a value of $7,500? Because that is the goal. We're not going to deploy it for less than what?
$3.
That's it. So we now have a written plan. We know that if you put $10,500, which I believe if you understand this and after you see the first 75, automatically you're going to go into fast mode. It's not going to take 8 months to put that other money there. You're going to be like, One of the things I was when I was young, I would ask everybody for any time something came up, oh, it's your birthday, what do you want? Give me cash. Like, what do you want for your birthday? $100. Because I knew 100 was 300. See the difference? And they were like, and then if I was my family, like, what do you really want for Christmas? 1,000. Because in my hands, is it 1,000 or is it 3,000?
3,000.
See? So if I knew something cost $2,500, I just needed access to 1,000. Everybody else is trying to strive to get to $2,500. I can actually get what I want on 1,000 and still have 500 that I can turn into another 1,500. See that?
Yeah.
Which means that I can actually have my cake and eat it too, but I must be disciplined because it has to do with, see, companies fail today. Now, if you're a CEO, think about this. Your bank statement is your P&L, so profit and loss statement. It shows your additions, or what they like to call your incomes and your outflows, or another term would be your debit and credits. Okay. That is your bank statement. At the end of the year, to say, well, hey, you end up having, even though you may get paid a total of, let's just say about $2,600, along the way you may sell something on eBay, get something, and then it says at the end of the month, all of a sudden you show that you made $3,000. Where did this other $400 come from? Oh, it was money that I didn't have in my bank account. Okay, but 400 really means 1,200, but you kept it at 400. There's a cost for that. See where I'm coming from? Mm-hmm. So 6 months go past oh yeah, I did have this $400 that was in this envelope. I just totally forgot about it. I was like, whatever, That's $1,200. It's going to now be it's going to be another 6 months, another 12 months before that turns into 1,200. All because you wasn't focused. The market itself, let's keep this in perspective too. The stock market as a whole is a business that put its shares up to be regulated underneath a standard of reporting practices. So if a company's on the NASDAQ, they filed a register to be on the NASDAQ as a carrier for accountability, where they provide documentations to the individual people who trade the NASDAQ or the New York Stock Exchange. It has a governing body that requires quarterly filings to let you know the results of the company, correct? Now, when you're thinking about that, let's even jump in it more. This company files a 10K if it's a C Corp annually. They file quarterly reports, which every company that you work at will file quarterly reports on the 941s and a quarter of the company how it did. Nothing's different. Well, bank statements, you don't have to file a quarterly report, which means that you can be reckless with debt payments and consumer spending, because what's the accountability if you don't see your money that way? I only see money in one way. You give me 100, I see 300. You give me 2, I see 600. I don't see anything else. Because 100 to you today and to me means $300. But you know what somebody else says? All I got is 100. I'm like, you got what you got? I got 300. They're like, I don't see it. That's the mind's there. You see where I'm coming from? Mm-hmm. They never trained their mind to see money. They trained their mind to see stuff. That's not how I trained my mind. Now my mind was originally trained that way, and I had a person that made me an American investor. And when that person made me an American investor, one of the most important things that he did was he changed the way that I looked at cash. I used to look at cash as a way for emotional stimulation. Not anymore, because I realize now, when I buy clothes, I don't buy clothes for someone else to tell me if I look nice. I buy clothes because it fits the price for what I waited for. You see what I'm getting at? Yeah. Like, because when I buy clothes for others, even if they think it's nice, I didn't buy it from them. And I didn't buy it from my principal. I bought it from my equity increase. Most people are consuming today from their actual principal. They haven't grew the principal yet. They've taken their principal and they turn dollars into 70 cents. Boom, boom. And we know $1,766 has the buying power of around $1,235. And they're happy about that. What they don't realize is they just gave away $529 that they worked so hard for in the last 2 weeks or the whole month and say, that's acceptable. To me, that's not acceptable, because inflation is a thief. Think about, if you don't take your mind off of my debt obligations or priority to my equities, look at the damage. $1,235, right? Or the flip side to this, the $2,500 that you set aside. Let's keep the numbers consistent. $2,500 that I have in my checking account only has the buying power times 0.70. What is that buying power?
$1,750.
So if I go out in the market, that's all I can buy. So $2,500 or $7,500. Because see, inflation tells you I got to get way ahead of this. See that? Mm-hmm. So the reason that it's so important to become an American investor and that is that you sit down, because here's the thing. If you don't do this, this is what you're really doing. You might as well get a t-shirt that says, I am spending my kids' inheritance.
Yeah.
See where I'm coming from?
Yeah.
I want you to realize that your parents, consumer spending is your inheritance because they're not saving it for you. Mm-hmm. See that? If your parents do not change the way they think and they add it to equity stakes, guess what they're spending? They're not spending their consumer spending, they're spending your inheritance. If it's 3 kids, you should look at your parents like, that's messed up. You see where I'm coming from? What do you mean it's messed up? It's my money. No. See? It was your money, but remember, it's okay to take care of number one, just so long as you remember it's not you. See, people are taking care of number one. The only reason kids today have to go to work, because the parents are not the employers. Did you catch what I just said?
No.
Parents are not employers. You just saw that let me give you an example. If you want your child to work, what would be the first thing that you would do? Would you deploy them to, okay, I'm going to open a second account. So I'm going to open up a whole separate trading account, okay? Or do I take $10,000 that I just turned into $31,000, and then I give my child a part-time job because they can't go make McDonald's rich, but they can take my $10,000 and make me $31,000, and out of that I make $21,000, and now they have a part-time job. See that?
Yeah.
So your first job should be managing your family wealth, but you have no inheritance because all they can do is spend. When a parent sends their kid out to go get their first job, I want you to understand that your parents has told you, my position in life can be bought for very cheap. And how do you know? If you have in your account $31,000, and then you ask, like, out of your paycheck, how much do you save? And you're like, what? Not if in 401k, because they don't. That's not money they get. It's money that's taken from them that they can't allocate, or they wouldn't even have it. Do you understand that? Because consumer spending supersedes what? Equity state, right? So if you and don't do it now, but it's gonna be fun to do it, because once you turn $10,000 into $31,000, and you'll see it. I mean, it's written there that there's no ducking this. I want you to know you will see it, okay, when you make the deals. On the flip side of this, let me just say this: if your parents only have $12,000, you can buy their position in life. They're cheap. You showed us a son who had access to $10,000 to turn to $31,000 that you can buy their life, and they got to keep their job and they can't survive. You know what that means? You can purchase your parents' position, and they can't afford to live after you buy it. That's a company you don't want to buy, because a company that's going to fail. See the difference? If they ran a public traded company and you invested in them, do you want to invest in them? If they have a allocation issue? Now we got another thing. You're going to be able to identify which companies have an allocation issue, because you can already see it in real life when you're dealing with other people. You got a friend, he goes to work and he has $3,000 in his savings, and that's all he has after 1 year. His life is cheap because his position is cheap to buy. See that?
Yeah.
Because really $3,000 is $9,000. If you don't have $9,000 in your account, you can't buy his position. But he's like, well, I got these bills and not gonna still work. He has an allocation issue. Now we're gonna take that same concept and seeing which CEOs we do not want to partner up with because they have a what issue?
Allocation issue.
Bam. That's how you read a company's profits, loss, and expense report. We're looking for companies that don't have an allocation issue. It's not hard to find them when you know what you're looking for. And we can start by looking at the people around us and seeing who we can buy. Because the whole thing is this: the companies that are expensive to buy with your cash are the ones you want to own. Because no one can buy your position. And if they did, you'll never have to work again. See how it works?
Yeah.
Everyone else says, if you buy my position, I got to go to work the next day because you bought the position. So I'm going to give you what you can save. And I'll do one better. If you can only save $3,000 every year, I'll give you $9,000 for the next 3 years, but my bills are $54,000. That's not my issue. That's your allocation issue. But your position is cheap because I can buy your position in life. I can't buy you, but I can buy your position because I got more than enough money to buy it. So let's make a deal for 12 months from now when I free up to 31 that I can buy your position. They won't take the deal and you can't invest in them. See how it works? So this is how you, and this is one of the things that I was taught early on, is you look at the stock market based on what positions you can buy and who does better allocations. So you partnering up with people who can do allocations, they give you $3 at the entry. It's not at the exit, it's at the entry.
Make money going in, not out.
Correct. Because the deal's already done and you're waiting now to pay the IRS their portion of the deal. This works in every way. We know that if we buy a house, what do people do? People buy houses and they live in it and then they have equity. This is and I tell people this all the time because I want you to hear the lies that people do with the stuff that they have, okay? You buy a car, the car was worth $31,000 that you bought it. You put $5,000 down, okay? So if we got a $31,000 car, and let's make it round numbers, 30,000, you put 5,000 on, you got 25. How come they don't say this car's worth 5,000? That's all you get if you sold it. No, this car was 31. What is your equity?
5.
How come you don't say that? Because the reality that you only have 5 in the deal is the same thing like the 5,000 you got in your savings account. Very little. And they know it. It's 30,000. You didn't pay 30,000. Somebody else supported you on this transaction. You got a partner called financing. So you got somebody who got deeper pockets than you who did this with you, and they expect you to pay them more than 30,000. So if you sold this car tomorrow on speculation that you can get more on the retail side of it, and you only got 6, what was your car worth to you? $1,000, because you got your 5,000 back. See how that works? Mm-hmm. This is the mind of an American investor. This is the only country in the world where you can come and look at the stock market as transparent as looking at the market at the people around you. And I can tell you, as a child of a father, that I could have bought my parents at the time when I was your age so many times over. I could have paid. Now, let me give you an example. If they only saved $3,000, right? I could have, the PE ratio is 1-to-1. If I paid $6,000, that's a PE ratio of 2. It's going to take me 2 years before I get my original investment back. A PE ratio of 3 years before I get my money back. I paid 3 times. So pretty much, when you hear somebody's PE ratio of 24, they're paying 24 times the money this company makes today to buy a stake in that. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. No. Even though you say yes, it doesn't. Let me explain what I mean. It means 24 years. For every $1 you deploy, it'd be $1 a year from now. That's 24 years before you get your investment back.
Oh.
Does that follow
you
your
want a low PE ratio?
Yes.
Okay.
And you like the PE ratio of opposite, plus 3, not just 3. For every $1 I get 3. I don't want to spend 1 and get $1 back a year from now. PE means for every dollar I deploy, I get $1 back a year from now. That's a 1-to-1. A PE ratio of 1 is a 1-to-1. I'm looking for companies that the real PE ratio is plus $3 back a year from now. For every 1 I deploy, I get plus 3. That allocation means $7,500 on $2,500. And I share that with you because as you begin to move with this philosophy of an American investor, here's another thing that's going to take place. You will lose friends. So let me just help you right now, because these are the 3 things you're going to hear. You think you're smarter than me, which you are. You're going to be smarter than them. How are you going to be smarter than them? Because you got discipline and they undisciplined. See that? What makes a person's intelligence is their active obedience to facts and truths. Okay? 2, you're not going to be emotional. They're like, you're going to lose money in the market. How can I? They paid me up front. How can you lose if they already gave you the money and you control it? Okay. So if a person goes out and buy a house and you make the earnest money deposit non-refundable, can you lose any money if they don't buy your house? It's non-refundable. See that? I make non-refundable entry deals. And then the third one, you will be very kind to individuals that you know are debt priority driven versus equity. Because you'll be able to know right off the top. They'll start talking and you say they debt driven because the only thing they keep talking about is I got bills I got to pay. So you will be kind to them and you won't go down conversations and you will not persuade them by trying to make them you, because you would have to use their numbers to make them them. Every number that's down here is based on you.
Yeah.
It does not include my numbers, because as soon as I begin to add my numbers to this sheet of paper, you check out like, that has nothing to do with me. This is my problem with all of the social media that you see on YouTube, Snapchat, Instagram, and these constant videos that people run into, is that they exclude you from the factor. You have to know, like, we go into trades knowing what we're going to pay on taxes. Mm-hmm. I mean, here's the coolest thing. Before you buy the food at anywhere or Walmart, they tell you what the price of it is. Then they print, and then they say, okay, and you can always ask, could you print up the receipt and tell me what my taxes are? And they're printed out before you pay for it. I don't know if you know that or not. So you know going in how much you obligated to pay in taxes. We do that in trading too. We're not guessing ever. Everything we do is based on facts, based on being disciplined, and based on reducing taxes. We're not interested in doing anything else. somebody tell me that they make $5,000, I made $5,000 today, and I'll say, okay, how long did you sit there? And how long you been doing this? If you sit in front of a computer screen from the time the market opens to close and you're looking for momentum, you might as well put the dollar rate for the state you live in. So let's assume it's $10 an hour. Okay, it's $10 an hour, and you sit in front of the screen. There's 18 trading days, 21 trading days a month, sometime 18 depending upon what holiday it is, but it's 21 days. So you got 21 days that you're working 6 to 7 hours in front of a screen, where all you're doing is making yourself emotional damage. You understand?
Yeah.
Because you're trying to. It's like jumping into a rope that somebody's turning. You're like, is it the right time? Is the right time? So let me explain something to you. A deal is made off the market, the same way a NASCAR race is won off in the garage with the doors closed. You do all the tinkling. You come on the track and you hit the discipline that you were trained on.
You already know what's going to happen when you.
Correct. If I have to go to the market and look at a candlestick chart,
You're doing it wrong.
okay, let me ask you a question. If you started a business today, do you use a candlestick chart for your operations?
No.
Doesn't make any sense, does it?
No.
Because Apple does not use a candlestick chart to sell an iPhone. A candlestick chart is 1 minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 6 minutes. I understand that there's a different philosophy for past 10 things that took place that happened in the market. 1 minute ago it happened, 5 minutes ago it happened, 15 minutes ago it happened. There are individuals who function based on studying chart patterns, but they don't function on what we're talking about. And I continue to tell people, if someone wants to correct me, I'm listed on the Security and Exchange Commission underneath a CIK number. If you're listed underneath that, you can correct me. If you're not, please don't try to correct me, because we're in two different financial positions in our life. I run traded companies and you run patterns. How can you compete? Any pattern that I run is this. You want to know what your new candlestick chart is?
My discipline, my numbers.
There it is. That's the only chart you're going to ever look at. And you're going to find out that if you didn't do 1,000 this month, you're going to be able to chart how much money you lose every month when you don't do this.
Yeah.
I lost $96. I lost $300. After you start charting this, it's going to be like, man, this is some consequence. All because of what? Lack of discipline. And you will adjust. You will say, you know what? I made a fallacious statement because I don't have the discipline to do 1,000, and I've learned I only do 8. So that's where you really discipline at. Now force yourself to do 200 more. Force yourself to grow, learn, and die. Or learn, grow, and die. Learn, grow. How come what do you have to die to? Strong-willedness, which means your ability. Anybody who's stiff-necked or strong-willed means they know they don't want to learn, they don't want to grow, and they don't want to die. In order to be an American investor, you have to always be willing to listen, grow, and die to what you knew before so you can increase what you need tomorrow. The best investors have grown the most, and they stay at the top. That's the goal. So here's my next question. Can you accept, since you just opened up your account today, you cannot make the deal that you want to make? Not that you didn't open up your TD, but the money is not available for you to make the deal.
Yeah.
Can you accept that?
Yeah.
'Cause that's a fact.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you could, you would see this number show up in your account today.
7,500.
You would see it. No hesitation. So it's gonna tell. So how would you know? Remember when you transfer the money, it says this money will be available. What date did they tell you? It's available. It's available for you to speculate, but it's not available for you to make a deal. See the difference?
Yeah.
So I always tell people that, it says available for trading. Oh, you about to speculate? Is that what you want to do? Do you want to speculate, or do you want to see $7,500?
I want to see 7,500.
Okay, that's not speculation there. So how do we know? Because it tells you in this regards, we're going to see something as we look at this. You're going to see something here. You see where it says all these zeros here?
Mm-hmm.
Available for withdrawal is just 50. When it shows you're available for withdrawal of 2,500, let that be the indication when your money has been what they call settled.
Okay.
Once it's settled, today the 30th, that meant that tomorrow on lunch break, how long you have for lunch?
I have an hour for lunch.
You have an hour for lunch. How far is your job from here?
Like 5 minutes.
Okay, so during your lunch break, make it a priority to swing past for 5 minutes to get access to what?
To 2,500. To 7,500.
There we go.
Yep.
We set 75, and until you see it, you're not gonna believe it. Because right now it's an assumption until you can see the fact that it shows. Once it shows, you're gonna be like, okay.
Time to save. Time to be disciplined.
Time to be disciplined. Because you now have your system saying you were right.
Okay.
And that's what we want to focus on.
Perfect.
All right?
Thank you.
You're welcome. See you tomorrow.
Yes.